It is more than just your honor at stake.
You think that just because I'm a woman, I'm incapable of making my own choices?
Fans of Bridgerton may be surprised at the way women are regarded in the hugely popular Netflix series, which has just been renewed. It is set in London during the Regency era, but how accurately does it reflect the period? Queen's University language and literature expert Robert Morrison is the author of The Regency Years, and he joins us this morning to talk more about what he describes as a decade that really shaped our modern world. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
So let's start off with the way women are portrayed on this. I think a lot of my friends who watch this are kind of shocked. I was not, because I assumed that women would not have a lot of power.
Bridgerton portrays the lives of women in aristocratic circles, and they had the power in the sense that they were the ones who were meant to sire an heir, and they were the ones who, for their families, could ensure a much better future if they married well, if they brought their siblings into a closer relationship with powerful families. There was a tremendous amount of pressure on women in that echelon of society. But one of the things that stood out for me, and it stands out in Jane Austen's novels as well, and of course she's the archetype of this kind of drama, is that there is no record of the poor people. There is no record of people much further down the social hierarchy. And one of the ironies is the further down the social hierarchy you are as a woman, the more freedom that you have, the less pressure you've got on. You've got other kinds of pressure, but you haven't got the pressure to marry in quite the same way that someone like the women in Bridgerton do.
Okay, one of the women, Queen Charlotte, is one of the black actors who has a lead role in this. And there's been some talk, was Queen Charlotte actually of African descent?
Well, I think there's a debate about it. There's a very well-known portrait from 1761 in which she appears to be of black descent. There are many other portraits of her where she is, I would say, pretty categorically white. Mm-hmm. And so there is controversy about it, but certainly the Bridgerton portraying her as black and it going uncommented on. If the Queen of England is black, then virtually anything is on the table. And I think here, of course, of Meghan Markle, who has been, I would say, chased out of England because of racist tweets. And so I would say that the British monarchy is a long way from having black people in it and having it go unregarded. So for me, that was one of the very exciting things about the film, but it takes us pretty firmly into the land of fantasy rather than what we see around us today.
Right, because the reality during the Regency era was that there's so much slavery, so much colonialism going on at that point. It was also the time in our country of the War of 1812.
That's right. The Regency, the reason I wrote the book is because it is such a fascinating era to me. In this country, there's the War of 1812. And all that the conclusion of that war meant for indigenous people in this country. It marked the beginning of cultural genocide for those peoples in United States and in Canada. There are the Napoleonic Wars, which of course shaped Europe from 1815 until the beginning of the Second World War. And slavery has been abolished the slave trade has been abolished in 1807, but slavery is not actually abolished in Britain until 1833. And there are pretty horrifying levels of barbarity directed toward people who aren't in the groups portrayed in Bridgerton. Mm-hmm. Everybody else is struggling a lot more than those people.
Right. I have to ask you, did you enjoy watching this series?
Yes and no. As a historian, there are some things that are pretty inaccurate. But as someone, one of the reasons I wrote the book is because the Regency, in my estimation, marks the beginning of the modern world. And I would really like to see our world get better. And one of the ways our world could get better is if we got on top of questions of race and pressure on women.
Okay. Robert, thank you very much for joining us from Queen's University. We're going to get your book cover up there again so people can get the real story, The Regency Years by Robert Morrison.